I don't think US-China relations can get too bad. I don't think there'll be a war over Taiwan because China doesn't want war. But China has a red line. And the US knows where the red line is. That the rest of us should all be peacemakers, not troublemakers. Trump's presidency has ushered in a very volatile period in global politics and global economics. I don't think he is the cause of it. I think he is a product of a world that is entering a great transition to multipolarity, where the US accepts that it's no longer able to dominate in every region of the world, where it has got to resolve its own internal problems, concentrate on its core around North and Central America, which is one reason why he has renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and also the reason why he wants Canada to be a 51st state and to take Greenland along with it. He and his supporters feel that the US has got to reconsolidate, bring back manufacturing, get others to invest in the US, revive many industries, and minimize its commitments elsewhere. And therefore wanting NATO countries to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Of course, once they spend 5% of the GDP on defense, they will no longer listen to everything you say because they will have their own independent capability. And on trade policies, he's doing it on the fly. He threatens, and then he says, okay, so many percentage points. But if the goods are from China, then a different tariff rate. And in this period, where uncertainty is the norm, it's like the weather forecast, that, there's going to be rain in the coming week, but you're not sure whether it's going to rain every day or it's going to rain from 3 to 5 p.m., so you better have your umbrellas ready. In such a climate, risks go up, and therefore the cost of trade financing, the cost of business goes up. And this will have an impact on the global economy. And the global economy is not in very good shape. The wealth is concentrated, so there's asset inflation. But many people in the world are not doing well. And the income inequality in many countries is generating a lot of social stresses. And these social stresses will be exploited by political leaders to effect change, and sometimes even by foreign hands. In this period, we have little influence over geopolitics, over China or America, their relations with one another. For us, Ukraine, the Middle East, these are distant conflicts. I mean, what's happening in Gaza is deeply upsetting, and it's right that we take a clear position against genocide. But these are distant problems. What we need to make sure is that within our region, we keep the peace. And if things happen, like the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia, we quickly bring the temperature down. The instinct in the entire region must be, if there are problems, whether in the South China Sea, or Myanmar, or the Thai-Cambodian border, that the rest of us should all be peacemakers, not troublemakers. China is rising. China is now the biggest trading partner for all of us. China faces challenges to the US. But luckily, I don't think US-China relations can get too bad. Partly because if there's a rupture with China, it's bound to affect the US economy. And it will affect Trump's midterms. I don't think there'll be a war over Taiwan because China doesn't want war. But China has a red line. And the US knows where the red line is. Does the US want conflict? In Honolulu, which is the headquarters of the Indo-Pacific Command, they have war gamed this many times. And they know that if there's war over Taiwan, there's no guarantee that they will win. Because the aircraft carriers are all within the range of Chinese hypersonic missiles. And even Guam may be too near. So now they're developing Palau, further away. And even if there's war, TSMC will be destroyed. So no NVIDIA chips. And America needs NVIDIA chips. Europe needs NVIDIA chips. China can get by without NVIDIA chips. So I don't think the US will likely cross the red line. And now China has played its trump card on rare earths. And that's a chokehold because the US has no response to it. So therefore, I don't think we'll see war over Taiwan or conflict between the US and China, military conflict between the US and China for the short to medium term. What is medium term? Well, beyond 5 years. But in another 5 years, in terms of relative strength, China will be stronger than what it is today relative to the US. So it will be even harder for the US at that time to think of going to war with China, unless China becomes aggressive. Then the US may have no choice. But why should China be aggressive? It knows that time is on its side. So if in the region, US-China relations are stable, not too good, but not too bad. ASEAN and China have a good relationship where China cannot dominate Southeast Asia because Southeast Asia will not be an enemy to China, where we will keep our balance, where we will keep good relations with America without allowing America to use us against China. So if we in Southeast Asia maintain our strategic discipline of being friendly to everybody, being neutral, so that Americans, Indians, Chinese, Japanese can all meet here, we can help to maintain the peace in the region. And while Trump may be playing around with tariffs, I think within RCEP, we should lower tariffs and so organically promote our economies. No, trade is like water. You think you can block the water, but the water finds its way around.
Is US disengagement something that is going to stay, or do you think it is just a passing phase until the next administration comes in?
I think this is a historical transition into a multipolar world. The US will still be the biggest pole and the most important pole, but there'll be other poles. China will be very big. Europe will always be important. Russia will not be put down. India will grow. Latin America, Brazil, Africa will assert their own autonomy. The poles will all be interdependent, sometimes closer, sometimes further apart. So what Trump is doing by his erratic policies is almost shaking the box to facilitate, not he wanting to facilitate, but by his actions, helping the emergence of these poles on the global stage. He's fast-forwarding the future. If he were not president and somebody else, it may take another 5-10 years but he's making it happen faster. And the fact that the US is abandoning the institutions which he helped to create after the Second World War, like the UN, like the WTO, WHO, is a sign not of strength, but of weakness. It now feels that it can no longer be generous, it can no longer play big brother. It's now one of many brothers, and it wants to calculate for its own advantage. He said the US will always be America first. Of course, we all know that, but you should never talk like that. If you're a leader and you say, I first, how can you be a leader? We all know the leader is I first, but you're a leader, you should say everybody together. The fact that the rhetoric has changed and the actions follow the rhetoric is really a clear indication to us of how that old regime is dissolving before our very eyes. It requires from us an adjustment because we're used to referencing back to the US for standards, for leadership, for new thinking.
I'd like to hear your view on the worst case scenario that in the next 3 to 5 years, how things could morph into, and what are the signposts going towards your worst case scenario view?
I think the greatest uncertainty is the global financial situation. The quarrel between Treasury and the Fed in the US suggests to me a certain fear that the US economy is not doing that well in substance. Superficially, it appears to be doing well. But many Americans are living hand to mouth, month by month, paycheck to paycheck. The wealthy are unbelievably wealthy. So they spur certain kinds of consumption. They cause certain asset prices to rise. But the tensions in society are building up. And it's not just in the US. I think it's everywhere in the world. It's caused partly by excess liquidity. It's also caused by technological change, which has altered the terms of trade in the division of labor among human beings. So if you have access to capital, you're born into a family with networks, you're well educated, you have access to investors, so you do well. But if you don't have that network, and you never had education, and you can't speak languages, and you're a place with poor infrastructure, however clever you are, you're stuck. And if enough people are stuck, they become angry when they see what's happening around them. So many governments are forced to turn leftwards in terms of economic policy. But the old left thinking of ideological control, that's also breaking up. So countries are politically moving rightwards, but economically moving leftwards. It's creating a lot of political confusion and fragmentation in country after country. So this is the challenge we're facing. If there is another global financial crisis, and the time is right, because the last was in 2008, so already 17 years, it's due. This time around, when there's a global financial crisis, it's always caused by debt. This time, the debt is much greater than 2008. And there's no G20. And the G7 will not be able to get the work out of it. Then we may end up getting into a big financial hole. And we all know that when you have a big financial hole, politics will turn ugly everywhere in the world.